Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? Hope you're all good. I realised it was 8 o'clock. There might have been a few seconds left on the timer, but I'm sat here like a lemon, so let's just crack on, shall we? Thanks, everyone, for tuning in again. Thanks, everyone, for being here and spending your Tuesday night, I was going to call it Thursday, with me. Again, a little bit crammed session, so I'll try not to waffle too much, but we know that's a problem. I'm going to break into two parts. I'm going to cover just generally what I always cover, a bit of news, topics I wanted to focus on, a few questions from the Avengers, the first part, and then the second part, someone asked me to have a look at a token last week, which I didn't really have time to. I'm going to discuss that right at the very end, and I'm also going to have a look at another project that I'm interested in. The reason I'm kind of doing it then, if people just want to knock it off at the end of that and don't want to stay for the next final bit, that's absolutely fine, but at least we can have some form of structure within it. I've also got a poll open at the moment, which is relevant to the main subject of today. So please have a look at it, answer as you see fit. But most importantly, when you start to hear me talking about institutions and where we currently sit in terms of the amount of Bitcoin, someone type in chat to tell me to either close the poll or refer to it. Otherwise, it's a bit of a waste of time. Other than that, all we've really got to do is just crack on with everything. So let's just do that. Get the charts up. I don't want to waste too much time on the price of things here, just because we're going to cover them in detail as we run along. But Bitcoin has had a little flush out sub 70,000, but actually, as you can see, that has been aggressively bought back up. And then whilst we are still down 1% on the day, it's looking like a nice, tasty low test forming at the moment. So interesting to see how that one's played out. Casper is kind of ranging, but in some sort of forming channel. I have to see how today ends up, see whether or not we're close to that. But I actually did post in Discord that did look like the potential getting into an apex of some form of compression that, could be a good buying opportunity. Ethereum just continues its rip up. And I know Bitcoin's had a rip up, but Bitcoin's had a few little breaks. Ethereum continues to climb. And there may be a reason for that for tomorrow, and which no one's really talking about. But there is actually quite a major fork, upgrade, whatever you want to call them, happening on the Ethereum network tomorrow. We are going to cover that very briefly in the news because it's worthwhile knowing. And then BitTensor. So again, very similar to Casper, really, and I will go into these in more detail later, so I don't think I'm just skirting over and never see again. But again, we got that high of about 770, and then we've been falling ever since. It's been fairly neat, even with the wicks, in terms of where we're falling, some form of compression. And I suggest, given the rising market, where we're going with things, unless the whole market's going to tumble, we may be looking for some further upside on BitTensor at the moment. Not saying that's your last warning to get in, but just bear that in mind. We'll have a look at that in some more detail later on. Okay, let's just jump straight into the news. And some people covered it. I covered it in Discord as well, but some positive-ish news coming out of the UK. Not surprising, obviously, since our masters from across the Atlantic are already leading the way. But for those of you that aren't aware, the Financial Conduct Authority, or the FCA, have actually announced that they would allow exchanges to list cryptocurrency-linked exchange-traded products, ETPs, for the first time. And obviously, like I said, 2 months after the spot ETFs were launched. I mean, let's face it, the Bitcoin spot ETFs, regardless of what the American SEC and other financial institutions might have thought, have been a resounding success. And so it was no surprise that the United Kingdom have decided, well, we need to jump on that bandwagon, because then we can start to claim some money back from everyone that goes into it that way there. So it's a positive step forward. Let's not mistake it, though, because this is not really helping retail with some of the restrictions we have with the FCA at the moment. But it is a correct stepping stone, and this will just be for recognized investment exchanges, the UK listed market segment for crypto-backed exchange-traded notes, ETNs. So it's not really for us retail, it will be for they deem institutional investments. But as I said, it's a positive step forward. As we see this sort of roll out, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. Some people might have attributed a little bit of a pump yesterday to that. I'm not saying it was big enough news. I think we're just climbing up with the hype that we've currently got. But in a bull market, all good news is just seen as very positive, and generally bad news in a bull market doesn't necessarily affect the price as it would in a bear market. So something to keep in mind. Evening, everybody. Sorry I didn't get to address everyone. Hope everyone is good. Hope you're all well. Moving on to the next one. Interesting. Two very quick segments here, but both potential presidential candidates. Sorry, I'm not great with US politics, and maybe they are both the presidential candidates for each party. Who knows? I'm sure some Americans do. But both Biden and Trump actually talked about cryptocurrency yesterday. Biden not directly. However, the White House basically issued a notice, putting back on the table this 30% crypto mining tax for the energy that is used for Bitcoin mining in a new budget proposal. Now, yeah, all well and good that he's talking about it, but I can assure you this is not a positive step. I'm not going to bother reading the article. It's got plenty to go through. But it does, as it says here in the headline, it will significantly damage any mining companies that are based in the United States. And there are some pretty big ones out there. And if anything, it's going to have to force them to move somewhere else, because a 30% tax on the energy, these use an awful lot of energy. But I don't know, how that's going to work in terms of whether or not they're self-sufficient with their energy, taking it off the grid, whatever. I'm sure that needs to be fleshed out. But it was interesting that Biden happened to resurrect that yesterday when good old Donald, nope, not that one, good old Donald Trump was suggesting in an interview that actually he would crack down on Bitcoin as other presidents had. And he actually has acknowledged that there is an appetite for this. Maybe he is by no means a cryptocurrency fan. He certainly wasn't when he was the president. But he is a free market fan, I suppose, and he's seen that there is an interest within that. And as it says here, he actually outlined, said he doesn't own any Bitcoin. I just thought it was very interesting that both presidential candidates happened to talk about Bitcoin in one form or another yesterday. MicroStrategy. So I type a little bit of blurb into the YouTube description, and then I just send it to ChatGPT, and they kind of just turn it into whatever they want to turn it into, and I just normally copy and paste. For any of you that actually read it, you'll notice that I actually said that BlackRock owned more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy, and at the time of writing it, that was correct. However, moving on to this article, it appears that MicroStrategy have gone and purchased some more Bitcoin, and they've used an $800 million note offering to purchase more Bitcoin. And they effectively bought about 14,000 Bitcoin from that, and currently hold 205,000 Bitcoin. Now, obviously, BlackRock will have been buying Bitcoin today. We don't know totally what that number is at the moment, but as of close of play yesterday, they were still at 203,000. So MicroStrategy, close of play yesterday, outside of Grayscale, were the largest institution, company, whatever you want to call it, holding Bitcoin. However, I imagine by close of play today, it'll be a completely different story. And actually, it will be BlackRock that will hold more. Now, there was a very interesting interview with Michael Saylor done a couple of days ago, where he went through this purchase and what he'd done and why they do it and why he continues to buy and everything else there. And I strongly recommend you watch it. I'll post it in Discord. It's 15 minutes long. It's nothing, but it's an impassioned speech by a very passionate man who believes in it and certainly puts an institutional mindset into our thinking. But what he talks about is effectively that although we consider MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, to be a bit of a juggernaut, actually they're nothing compared to the likes of BlackRock. They are almost more clinical. They're still big to us, but BlackRock are just going to continue to hoover up. And every so often, we hear an announcement that MicroStrategy have purchased 10, 8, 13,000 Bitcoin. But BlackRock, they're doing that almost every day, and so it's not going to be surprising that they are going to gobble that up. They're going to take as much as they can because there is interest within that and because of where they see Bitcoin going in the future. I'm going to park that bit there because that's actually what we're going to end up talking about a little bit later on. MicroStrategy, the way that they've actually engineered this $800 million, raising that off the back of sort of their share price. They've got a really long redemption period to pay it off. it's effectively printing free money. And there's plenty of articles out there that go through exactly how they've done it. It's a lot more intelligent than I am about it. But this just seems like if there was a way to print free money to just get more Bitcoin, Michael Saylor and Mircostrategy have gone about doing that. So hats off to them for that. But again, you know, these companies are just going to keep on buying it, which is going to be a running theme for tonight's call. Just a final bit of news in this section is Ethereum. So most of you would have heard, if you're not by name, of the Shanghai upgrade that happened last September. It was also called the merge, which was when we went from proof of work to proof of stake with Ethereum. And everyone just assumed that that was going to solve every problem there was with Ethereum in terms of speed, energy, consumption, and most importantly, cost. And to be fair to the developers and the Ethereum network of team, you know, individuals that helped do that, they were quite clear to say that, look, the Shanghai upgrade is not going to fix everything from day one, but it is a stepping stone because there are other things within that that will enable us to make improvements in the future. And tomorrow is one of those. So this is the Dencun upgrade. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly. And that's set to launch. It says 2 days. It's actually tomorrow because this article was written yesterday. Now, what is it and why is it important? Well, it's, as it says in the opening line, it promises to significantly reduce layer 2 transaction costs. And for those of you that were having that discussion with me in Discord yesterday, maybe it was this morning, my moan about gas fees that we have to pay, you know, at busy times because of the crowded nature of the Ethereum network and the amount of data that has been moved around, the gas fees just get higher and higher and higher. And whilst other networks can do it for a fraction of a dollar, I was left showing the example yesterday of trying to sell $400 worth of an asset, and they were going to charge me close to $300 in gas fees. Just because I picked a busy time of the day, I completely accept that at the moment it's currently anywhere from about $30 to $60. But even that is just ridiculous. And it is making it, I don't want to say unusable because people do use it, but I suggest that, you know, as things go on and as the price of Ethereum increases, it is going to become increasingly more difficult for projects to get the traction that they may want, because those coming into the market a little bit later on are going to be hit immediately with too high gas fees, and they're going to look to shop around elsewhere. But again, an upgrade is going to happen tomorrow, which I'm not telling you it's going to make a change as of day dot, but from what they explain within here, it is going to allow how they store data and how they sort of collect that, how they collect the data and store it collectively. I've used collective far too many times in that sentence. Should hopefully reduce the amount of, I was going to say memory, but the amount of processing power, whatever term it is in this article that they go into in a lot more detail than I do, which should then hopefully improve how transactions are managed, the speed at which they're done, and ultimately reduce the amount of gas fees required to undertake it. So that's the thought process behind it. I have seen notifications from some centralized exchanges to effectively say you may not be able to deposit or withdraw Ethereum tomorrow. So don't freak out if that's necessarily the case. It's just because at the period in which this upgrade is going to happen, obviously they're going to have to take some sort of snapshot and sort of adjust things behind the scenes. So, you know, don't freak out necessarily. A lot of the centralized exchanges are pretty scammy when it comes to that sort of thing, but this one is a genuine requirement. It happened when the Shanghai upgrade happened as well. Now, what is interesting is we have seen that large run-up in Ethereum at the moment. And whilst it has lasted longer than the run-up to the Shanghai upgrade, what we immediately saw after the Shanghai upgrade was a sell the news event. Now, I'm not so sure whether or not this is a sell the news event because we haven't really seen much discussion about it. But again, maybe there will be some price volatility. I mean, if we have a look at the price of Ethereum, you know, this is on the daily chart at the moment. And since sort of beginning of February, we have just gone up. All we've been able to do is just maintain the 10 EMA. We've had that one dip down this time last week. But other than that, it's just been very steadily climbing up there. Could well be because of the news we got there, but certainly we don't have an RSI on here, but I imagine it's significantly overbought. Let's have a look. I mean, yeah, on the daily, we're at 83, 84, pretty high. Have a look at some of the other time frames weekly. We go up at 86. So again, a very high level there. So at some stage, we're going to find that we are going to have some reset and cooling these off. Maybe tomorrow is the indicator for that. But I've got a bit of Ethereum. I'm not planning on doing any selling of it, mainly because I'm using that on Uniswap and other places to purchase things. So yeah, let's have a look. Jamie's put, this may make the Ethereum network usable during the bull market. Yes, well, hopefully the upgrade certainly will. Someone's asked a little bit later on about meme coins and sort of their explosion on the Solana network. And I would argue one of the reasons that is because people, especially with meme coins, they want to be in and out of those quickly, and they don't want to pay extortionate gas fees. And one of the biggest drivers for networks, especially in the bull run, is the meme coin element of that. So yeah, Ethereum needs to do something to battle it because there's plenty of competition out there. 2017, 18, you can get away with it. 2021, just about get away with it. We're getting into this next bull run here, and there's more layer ones than you've had hot meals. We really need to be doing better for Ethereum. Harry, 3-4 years have passed, and we are in the same position, probably worse in terms of gas fees on Ethereum, but liquidity still seems to be a problem for swaps on layer ones and layer twos. I mean, so we are another bull run on, and in the middle of the bear market, the one positive thing you can say is that Ethereum did decide to try and make these changes. They obviously can't always happen overnight, and there are stepping stones you have to go through, and they're they're called EIP, which is Ethereum Initiated Proposals, something like that. And in this one I'm talking about, there's actually 9 of them rolled into one. Similarly, when you go back to the Shanghai, they had loads of things that they wanted to do at the same time, but they needed the proof of work, the proof of stake to actually work, as you can expect. I mean, they did a testnet beforehand, but so they stripped a lot of them out and sort of said, like, we'll cover these later on. This was one of the steps that they're going to cover. So fair play to them that they are rolling it out. And don't get me wrong, Ethereum's borderline too big to fail at the moment. I think it'll always be around. It'll always attract people. But for retail, particularly, to get in and get out quickly, we don't want to be paying those gas fees. I certainly don't. I've sat on bags because I don't want to sell them at the moment. And the debate we were having is, well, if you've made 10,000, what's the harm in paying 300 or 400 in gas fees? And I just say, well, because we shouldn't have to, ultimately. And so, I'll try and wait for a time where it's more cooled off. If I've made that much and I've made a 25x, I feel like I've got a bit of leeway to try and do it. Yeah, okay, I may get caught out, but we'll just wait and see. A couple of news articles will go on a little bit later on, but that's basically it at the moment. Have a quick swig. And then we'll move on to the next. Okay, so a couple of questions. Oh, here we go, actually. 4 questions. The next one's popped up. So Alex, I'm going to cover the crypto VR and the Neo price. That's a bit later on. That's going to be in the second part. But don't worry, I can't forget, because somewhere I've already got it all up and ready to go. So I promise you we'll get through those. So I don't think that's your name, but Fear and Greed has asked a pretty decent question, I think. I understand this is a champagne problem. Let's hope so. I'm starting to get a bit worried about what happens if Tau BitTensor does hit over $10,000. This would be a 5 million plus payday for you personally. Congratulations on that. And I know Simon was saying not to worry about it yet, but seriously, what the hell do we do the day after we sell our Tau? Of course, assuming that we actually get 10,000, and I can't even imagine if we got to 20 or 30,000 yet. Well, okay. If you manage to sell it for 10,000, pat yourself on the back and go and buy the biggest, most expensive bottle of champagne you can find and actually toast that success, because £5 million is not to be sniffed at. I don't know how many tokens you have, but let's see if I could work that out. If you got to 10K, you'd have 5 million. You've got about 500 tokens. So yeah, I don't know how much you put in. I mean, let's just say you bought them all at $200. That's what. Gotta need to do some quick maths here. I really shouldn't have done this. It's 5 times by 100. Is that 100,000? I don't know. But anyway, whatever it is, you pretty much anywhere from 50 to 20x or 20x to 50x where you are. certainly deserves a bottle of champagne. Now, in terms of what the hell do we do afterwards? I mean, I'm going to take it off this screen just because it's white and it's just blinding me. Yeah. The reality of it is you will need to, and we are going to talk about this now, have an exit plan in mind of what you're going to do. Now, I'm going to assume you had an exit plan in mind. Your exit plan was 10,000 and you did execute it. Let's just say this scenario has actually played out. Assuming you've been able to be filled at that, because, you know, if BitTensor gets to $10,000, that means it's got a market cap of 100 billion, because it'll be around about 10 million in circulating supply at the time of the next bull market, the peak of the next bull market, Q4 2025, assuming that is where it is. So hopefully there should be plenty of liquidity for you to get your 5 million. And then what you're going to need are sat in, you'll have 5 million USDT sat on an exchange. Now, I won't lie, you'll need to absolutely complete all of the KYC. You know, I think it's like tier 3 is the final one to be able to move that. But you should, in theory, be able to move it somewhere and then convert it into whatever you want to do with it. And we'll tackle what people are going to do with theirs a little bit later on. But even if you wanted to move it into fiat, you could convert that into fiat. Obviously, you'll have to pay fees, and then it's going to sit on an exchange, an off-ramp, hopefully, in where you're going to be able to take it off. Now, the difficulty is going to be is how easy is it going to be to move 5 million from your designated off-ramp back into your bank? And that's going to depend mainly on what country you live in, but also what you choose as an off-ramp, because some off-ramps may not be able to give you 5 million in a day, and you may be capped at that. And yeah, you're just going to have a look and understand where that goes. Now, I don't necessarily feel that's going to be a problem. And here's my opinion on why. Because if we get to that target of $10,000, that means BitTensor, as I said, is going to be about 100 billion. Even if that got to top 10, I should have got that chart I did earlier. Top 10's around about, you know, anywhere from 1% to 5%. So I'd say you've got 10, that's 1% of the market. So we're kind of looking at a $10 trillion market cap. Again, very rough figures there. But have a look back at that spreadsheet I did, which listed all of the potential market caps that we may encounter. So that's a lot of money floating within the crypto space. Yes, you're going to have to hope your timing's right, that you're not leaving the same day that everybody else in the market is trying to leave. But I assure you won't be, because 90% of retail won't have an exit plan, and they'll give all of their paper profits away. But yeah, I feel by then, very similar to what happened at the last bull run, banks kind of just went softer. You know, it was I found it relatively easy to move 5-6 figures in either direction without the bank having too much of a problem with that. And I dare suggest that that would be the same. Now, let's say you can only move low 6 figures each time. You're just going to have to spend the next 30 days taking a little bit out every time. Which after a while, I don't think your bank's going to have too much of a problem, because it's going back into theirs. They may try and stop you from moving it somewhere else. But as you say, champagne problems to have. I mean, you know, just run the figures forward to get to 20, 30,000. You know, again, 200 billion market cap. Probably looking at an overall crypto market cap of anywhere, because obviously we don't know where it's going to be, but it'd have to be pretty high up in the top 10. So anywhere from, I know, 12 to 15 trillion dollars, which is going to be an incredible level to get at. Matter of fact, that's kind of the entire level of the gold market. So yeah, that'd be quite impressive to get there. But the problem should pretty much still remain the same. Then there's a question of, well, at what stage is the market currently at? Because, you know, BitTensor might rip well before the peak of the bull run. And then you've got another problem to have. And I think, you know, one, having a plan is hopefully it won't solve every problem that you're going to face, I can promise you. But it might just at least stop you from panicking when it's straight up in front of you. But two, and not necessarily even in the group we're in, but just being able to sort of spitball those ideas and try and sort of maybe not just copy someone else's ideas, but, you know, kind of sense check your plan of what you want to do, where you want to go, may help you just sort of move that decision. Hey, I'd love it. I'd love it if that was the problem we were going to have. I mean, I'm kind of thinking with BitTensor somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. So you know, crypto normally goes higher than you think it's going to go, and sadly further down than you're going to go during a bear market. But yeah, interesting problems to have. I mean, ultimately, what I would say is there are plenty of people that have withdrawn significant amount of money, and it may just be that you need to have a frank conversation with your bank, and they'll put you in touch with the private sector of that bank with the big fish clients or whatever it may be. I mean, let's face it. By the time we get to it, and the way things are going, certainly with the American currency, we may be taking shopping trolleys just to buy a loaf of bread like they did in the 1930s in Germany. So anyway, we will see. But let's just... so this is currently where the price is at the moment. But just to put it into perspective, hopefully you can see it. And I'm not saying we can't get to this. This isn't you're in a pipe dream, but this is where we need to get to. We're down here. That's 10,000. That's 22,000. So it's a fair way to go. And I know someone asked the question on Thursday about, it effectively needs to go up by $1,000 a month. Just remember that previous bull runs, what we've actually seen with altcoins is 80% of the move typically happens in the last 20% of the time. So that real parabolic run has yet to occur yet. But you put it on the chart, that's what it's going to look like to try and get to your target. So we are a flat line, a little snake crawling along the bottom. We need to turn that into a giraffe in one form or another. Hopefully we're not too many legs down, to be honest, to get to those levels. But that's where we're talking, isn't it? Really, nice to visualize it sometimes. But actually, profit taking is something that I do want to talk about, because we were chatting again in Discord today just about exit liquidity, trying to make sure you take profit, and I was having a conversation again off the back of ETHs about waiting for Tau Inu to list on a centralized exchange so that I could look to sell. And I referred back to XRP and ADA in the last one, and I solely bought them because I knew retail would ape into them, and I was going to sell once they aped in, and that's exactly what I did. And I'm very vocal about that's what I did, and I make no exceptions that I used retail as my exit liquidity. It wasn't a large amount, but I was waiting for that hype to run in. Now, I don't know why I put it up here. This was me in Discord saying you can have a look. It's in the crypto chat around about 11:30 this morning. But actually, someone messaged me privately afterwards, and I'm not going to show you who it was because I don't think that's very fair. But they questioned, I suppose, an ethical dilemma as to, why I could be so candid about that. And does that necessarily make me feel bad or anything like that? And it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was a telling off. I feel like it was a genuine question that perhaps they just didn't want to put into the group. And what I say to you, and I'm talking about profit taking, and it may be a few months, 18 months off, wherever it's going to be. But ultimately, if we time it right, we need someone to buy the bag. So it is that greater fool analogy. There's always got to be someone else to buy it off you. Now, arguably, you might suggest that that's an exchange, but the exchange is really just an intermediary. They're just hoping that someone else is going to buy that later. And if there is no demand for that, I can assure you the price will fall. So we're always going to be expecting someone to think it's going to go a little bit higher than the price that we're going to sell it at, and that's just the the capitalism, the markets that we're currently playing. And whilst I don't think this person in particular was dead against that, and had an epiphany moment where they didn't want to be trading anymore, I just don't think they really thought it through. And so maybe there's an opportunity for us to just actually think, do we really know how we're going to play this? How are we going to exit the market? Because ultimately, we do need to time it so that we exit when someone else is willing to buy. And I remember there was a discussion on Discord probably about a month ago where someone, and I won't bother finding it because I didn't ask them if I could use it, but if you're active member in Discord, you remember it. Someone was talking about, the ethical dilemma of these degen meme coin plays where, you really are waiting for the suckering in of people to just buy a token that has absolutely no worth whatsoever. And they were having a bit of a moral dilemma as to, whether that was the right thing to do. And, I think it's a fair comment to raise, but ultimately, and my point was exactly valid then as it is, and I spoke to this other person earlier on today, that's that's just the way it's got to be. And I don't revel in the fact that I've, suckered someone else in to take my bag. I actually don't even think about it. I just think about it as in, I've just made some profit there. I had the foresight, the courage, the balls, whatever you want to call it, to get in when it was relatively low, fingers crossed, and get out when it was relatively high. And I can assure you, I've done it the other way around plenty of times. I've been the one that's bought high and sold low. And so that doesn't necessarily justify that I should get it. But if I've been here long enough and I've found the target to hit, then you'll be sure that I'm going to take it. And I've spoken at length at the last cuddle. Matter of fact, let me just bear with me because it's not on here. I have to find Siam's webpage. So there is a video for any of you that hasn't seen it. I got to find it though. God knows how many videos he puts out. A lot, it appears. I'm never going to be able to find this. Anyway, if you go and have a look in Siam's YouTube page, I did a sort of a 30-minute presentation on how to take profit in a bull market and sort of give my views on that. I can't remember where it is. I'll post it somewhere. Just because I don't know what the thumbnail looks like, to be honest. I'm trying to get it off the title. But anyway, that's where I kind of go in, sort of my views on how and why to take profits. So have a look there. I'll post the video within. But actually, that kind of discussion had me thinking, because I actually have done some profit taking levels, and I have posted these in Discord, and I've kind of done them for a bit of accountability. And one of the ones that's absolutely ripping at the moment is Near Protocol. And if you have a look at it, this has reached a level where I was planning on taking 20% profit. And so, I've got a really big decision to make. I either stick to my original plan or I try and understand, the rationales to why I don't want to do that. And we're not quite there yet. My near is staked. There's only a 48-hour, 2-day staking window, so hopefully I should be able to do that. But it is getting very close to that level. And that was the original plan. I wrote that in October, November. So right down when it was back down at $1, and this 832, which was the 0.382 level and some previous price action levels, seemed like an ideal time to take 20% off. It also tied in with the fact that that was a 5x for my average buying, or roughly. So 5x of 20%, I pretty much take my initial out, and I could do with it as I see fit. So that's currently where the plan is. To be honest, things have actually happened a little bit faster than I thought, and I really do want to take some profit from this. I do have 2 caveats at the moment, which I did not know or did not anticipate at the time of doing this plan. Firstly is the just sheer hype around AI at the moment, and the fact that actually in next week, one of the co-founders of Near Protocol is speaking at the NVIDIA conference, which seems to be getting an awful lot of hype at the moment. So there could be an opportunity for this to blow through. It could also be a sell the news event, so bear that in mind, especially as we are getting to a significant level that could be an easy one to react off. But actually, my biggest concern at the moment is this fairly sizable chunk of money, and if I take it out in the next 4 weeks, then that means that I'm actually going to have to declare that with my tax return. Yet talking about taxes again, back in January 2025, which means I may have to then pay, something to the government, capital gains tax, whatever, to the government, sort of around about January, February next year. Which, if things are going in the way that I think they're going, we're still going to be in the bull run, and I may have that money tied up and be having to pull it out at a later date. So, ideally, I'd like it to stall until after the 6th of April, and then I can take the profit. And ultimately, that would be a problem then for January 2026. So that's kind of, it's one of these ones where no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And actually, now we're getting close, and I'm starting to really realize it. I don't want it to be an excuse, because I do want to take profit, and I think there's multiple options I can take profit and still benefit my portfolio. But I've got 2 things in my head that are just, I've got to think over the next couple of days what it is that I want to do. But despite everything else collapsing today, Bitcoin has continued. Bitcoin near protocols continue to rise. And I think a lot of that is down to next week. Now, what I will also say, because I want to get both sides of the arguments, and I take the piss out of Solana plenty of times, near protocol basically collapsed today in terms of the network. It crashed. Things weren't getting done quickly because it had just been so overwhelmed at the moment. So it was really struggling. It's having its first major test over the last few weeks, and it's held up so far, but today was a tipping point. So I need to think about that. Sorry for sniffing down the microphone there. What's this one? What was it that I wanted to talk about here? No idea. It's just a blank chart. Okay, yeah, I remember now. So just looking at near, I mean, if we just draw that fib level on again, but we take off the profit levels. The one other thing at the moment is the strength it's shown, because if you have a look, I mean, this level here, ignore the fib level, I suppose. There's a decent amount of price action in and around that level. Not a single care given. No F's given on that one. And then similarly, another level you thought it may actually turn around by. If you look at the wicks and the bodies here, just blown straight through that one as well without a care in the world. So, part of me also says, what's that going to do? Now, the idea would probably be that I'd take the profit, I wouldn't send it all the way back to the bank, and I'd wait for a pullback, and I'd look to either buy on this or allocate it to another token. But maybe it's a case of, we just wait there. But the strength that we've seen over the last few weeks, and particularly the last 2 weeks, just blowing through these levels, really suggests that maybe the hype around the conference next week is real. And that conference doesn't end until the 21st, I think, which would going to be a week on Thursday. Still not quite close enough for me in terms of the tax year, but but we take that away, and the next levels for me are very cleanly this level here, and then after that, $10 does look, it's not a profit level for me, but that does look, like a very strong level. Let's just get rid of the fibs at the moment. Be dictated by them. You look at that price action in and around here. Let me pull it down a bit now. See, that's got rid of the fib. We got some there, and then there's not really too much because this waterfall happened. What's this? This is leading into the lunar crash all the way down here. So that happened so rapidly that we are kind of in a bit of free space, and there's an opportunity there. And then I don't think 21, although it looks quite daunting on this chart, I don't think there's too much once you get past this level and potentially $15 or $16 standing in the way of an all-time high. There seems to be a few comments. Let's have a look. I'm not sure some people understand why every time you gain, someone loses. We've all lost at times, and we all will again. If we wish to leave with a profit, someone else will have to buy. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. That's it with everything. Though. Doesn't matter what you buy. You want to buy a loaf of bread, or maybe not that. That's a poor example. That was a really bad example. Sorry, because shopkeepers making a bit of money, you're getting the bread, and whoever actually made the bread is getting some money. So that was a poor example. But in terms of sort of trading in that commercial market, it generally is. There is someone else on the other side of that. For every winner, there has to be a loser. Otherwise, it wouldn't be balanced. That is a decision. Chris goes on to say they will believe that they can make on the purchase just like we did. Yeah. Have you ever had any experience using Uphold with Starling Bank not recognizing Uphold when attempting transactions? Unfortunately, no, I've not. So I think I've said it a few times. My off and on ramp is for personal Swissborg back to Barclays, and for the business side of things, it's CoinPass back to, it used to be Yorkshire Bank, it's now Virgin. But again, not too many issues with those. Jamie's put, can't you take profit into USD? Isn't that still crypto? Yes, but it is. However, certainly in the UK, I know, Jamie, you're based in Australia, every single transaction is a taxable event. So the sale of near into USDT or into BTC or Ethereum, whatever, still determines a taxable event. And if that's going to be the last thing I do with that particular money, it would then need to be paid for, because it is profit. Why not take 5% profit just to scratch it? It's perfect. That's another ideal way to look at it. But I think I have another solution, but I want to touch on that a little bit later on. It doesn't solve my tax issue, but sometimes you just have to pay the piper. I don't declare anything in Australia unless it's back to fiat. Good on you. I've been very good. I've declared every year for the last 5 years. So the HMRC know they're on to me, but I don't mind. I honestly don't mind. Obviously, I determine which way around is tax avoidance and tax evasion. I don't want to do the really, really bad one, but I certainly want to limit the amount of tax I have to pay legally, which is why I always use an accountant. Unless I want to declare losses. Yeah, I've had a couple of years worth of losses, so that's helped. Well, technically, they're taxable events in Oz too, but I get it. Harry, what has been your experience being like with Coinbase? Does a company have to declare their crypto holdings in detail for end-of-year returns shown on the company's house? So it depends on the size of your company. Mine's obviously a relatively small company, so I don't have to. And actually, because all I do is buy and all I've ever done is hold, I've never sold any, mine's very easy because there is no event. I'm just showing the taxman where some of my money from the business has gone from. It's gone to Coinbase, it's gone to buy BTC, it's gone from there to my Bitcoin wallet, and that's it. And it stays there. But at some stage, I keep a track record of it, but I don't have to use any fancy tax software for that because I can manage that on a spreadsheet. That is just literally taking the CSW file and just putting it in a spreadsheet and just cleaning it up so it looks a bit cleaner. And that's all I've done with them. In terms of Coinbase, generally have never had an issue with them because every issue I've had has been resolved. But I assure you, there have been times where I've had to email them to say, well, wait a second, my order didn't fill and it went way beyond, it's sometimes thousands of pounds below my order price for not just wicked for hours at a time. There obviously was activities but never filled. Now they've always gone back and honored the original price that I put in for. So, fine, but that's an annoyance that's happened to me a couple of times. But they were very quick to set up from the business point of view. They didn't ask too many questions. And all I want to buy is BTC. So, I've never had a problem with withdrawing from them, but I wouldn't keep anything on any exchange, particularly for my business. Speaking of tax, you do not want to speak to me about tax because I'm not an accountant and I really don't know that much. Let's hope when Labour get in, they don't up the CGT before the end of 2025. They will get in, and yeah, let's hope they don't. But I wouldn't be surprised about that either. Okay. So yeah, I hope that answered the Tau question. And just sort of a quick refresher. I think it's very important, and I know it's boring. It's boring to talk about, but everyone can buy a Lamborghini with paper profits. Nobody ever buys a Lamborghini at the end of the bull run because we don't take the profits. And you only take the profits if you've got a plan in place. So. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because you're always going to think the grass is greener. And that's why that's why I'm torn of I should really follow through on the plan because the plan was written in the cold light of day and that seemed like an acceptable level. Let's not get greedy now. And I'm finding excuses not to do it, like the tax and the NVIDIA conference, because I want it to go higher. But the reality is that there was a solid reason behind that. And ultimately, this is what I do. I need to pay myself as well each year going by. So that would help do that. So yeah, my mindset is don't be an idiot. Stick to your plan. You'd still have 80% of your position in the market. Plus you've been staking it for well over a year. So you're really actually only taking out probably 5% anyway, because you've made so much in staking. So yeah, I might have just talked myself into that. Back to the next question. Colt. Hey there, Colt. Colt's put, any thoughts on the Solana meme craze and potential to invest in it? Given the current state of Ethereum fees, Solana memes seem to be pumping. Would love to hear your thoughts on potential strategy if you looked into this. So I actually did an Avenger call last year on this, and I kind of went through a strategy within it. It was in May, but very, very quickly, what do I do when I look at this? One of the things I rely on heavily, well, there's two things I rely on heavily. One is Twitter or X, and two is Dex Screener. I'm sure there are other platforms that you can use it for, but I can get the information quite quickly from it. And all you need to do is, I kind of did an example. I put in meme coins there, but you actually want to expand on it. Go into the advanced search. You want to type in some words that you're looking for. So any of these words. So you'd want meme. I know you'd want 100x maybe. Solana, if that's what you're looking for. Doesn't matter. Just put whatever you want in there. If there's any particular accounts that you know are good at talking about meme coins, you might want to add them within there. And then engagement, because you're looking for things that are trending. That's the whole point of meme coins. So this is the most important bit and why we use the advanced search. So you can say, I'm not really too bothered about the replies. I want to know that there's likes. So let's say, I know, over 100 likes and over 50 reposts. Now, hopefully it'll be more than that. You need to set the dates as well. I'm going to quite quickly do this. So that, let's just say from the last week. So we'd go March 12, today's date. 2024, watch this, it's going to be none. This is going to be the worst example ever. And you hit search, and all you're going to do is you're going to kind of start going through, because now we've narrowed down, you know, hopefully hashtags and what's trending, and you can find, there's actually websites that you can, you know, look, and they will find the words that are trending for you, so you can perhaps consider those. And then what you do is you need to go into some of these, and what you're wanting to try and do is to try and find ones that people are talking about quite a lot. Once you've found them, then you want to go to Deck Screener and you want to have a look. Now, I've already clicked on this. I've already had a look at the trending ones. And you're right, look at this on Deck Screener. I mean, basically, the top 21 tokens at the moment that are trending are on Solana. And my absolute all-time favorite is that Capo is on top. Someone actually did this in the group. I think they made a 50x in about 2 hours. It's currently on 196,000% profit. Up, should I say. In the last 24 hours. Capo on Sol, and it's called I Choose Poor every time. She's brilliant. And then whoever obviously did this obviously named the other one the opposite after themselves. Nick, I Choose Rich every time. But yeah, you can see that Solana dominate because probably of the ease of which they can create the meme coins, and then the fees in which it takes to buy and sell these. But what I then do is I take what we've seen, and let's say Capo was the one that popped up. I'd be looking at it and I'd be like, you know, click on this. It's already pumped 24%. Now it has pulled back. It pulled back 50% not so long ago. So, you know, maybe that you can, I mean, I'm on the 1 hour chart here. Maybe you can start to have a look at a place to enter and take it from there. You know, I don't know, but that's effectively what you do. And you're just trying to find one that is still being talked about a lot, that's not been around for too long, that you can then get an early entry. What I would then say is with these aren't for holding for a long time. These aren't to get your bags married into or anything like that. This is ultimately to get in and get out. And yeah, you might miss out on the 200,000%, but if you can get 100x on it, and then you move it into something else and you bag half of it in profit and move the rest into a couple more. And that's kind of what I went through in that call. And I started off with Pepe, and as I explained, it took $300, and I think Pepe did like $7,000, took the profit, only put 300 into the next one, did all right, doubled my money. Similar on the last one, I put the $300 in, and I think it was worth $8 at the last I checked. So it doesn't always work out. Can I see how much it's worth now? I'll just double check. Just for giggles, if you can find it. Here it is. Token. It was, so I did Pepe, P Pizza, Pleb, Peppo, and then ended up in Ribbit. And I own 5 trillion Ribbit, but it doesn't give me what the price is. So who knows? But it wasn't worth a lot. But yeah, and that's what you just rinse and repeat. You get in, you get out as quick as you can. Because yes, some like Bonk and With and Pepe and Doge and all that will survive the test of time, but ultimately a lot of them won't, because although they may sound like they got the same name because they've got the same ticker, you'll probably have about 15 different Elon projects and stuff. I've seen that Trump seems to be trending a little bit, and I imagine as we get towards the presidential elections, Trump and Biden will both do very well. But again, you know, it might be that you're just looking for things that are going on. So Whiff seemed to be one that was doing. So then, you know, adaptations of Whiff, similar with the Pepe side of things, could be a play. But yeah, Twitter in terms of trying to get that trending. I think Adam, I don't know if he's going to be on the call, Adam Stevens in the group. I think he's pretty switched on with the meme coins. So definitely someone to reach out to there and see how he got along. But, you know, you look at this, just to give you that point, you know, so top 21, Solana, generally. Obviously, they got Radiant, and I'm not sure what that one is there. I can't quite work it out. It's like a whale. Is it step? No, it's definitely a whale. I can't see what it is. And I can't see in the quick key what it is either. Anyway, then you got Ethereum, back to Solana, some AVAX, some BNB. But look, there's hardly any Ethereum. And I made this point in Discord about Tau Inu, that at the moment gas fees may be putting people off. So getting onto that centralized exchange may have two effects. One, people can finally ape back into it, or two, people will initially sell just to take some profits. But yeah, you can see why other projects do well, and Solana's very good for memes. So Colt, I hope that helps. Alex has just put, this one is one I've not prepped in the back. BTC has been running up for a while now, for over a year, with only one pullback last summer. See monthly chart. Are we expecting run to all time run up all the time to the middle of next year, or should there be pullbacks? How would Tau react on the movement, in my opinion? So, yes. Let's get a clean chart. Do this. Get the Bitcoin. Let's just wipe that. Put it on the monthly for you. So you're right. You know, since September, we have just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, 7 months. Well, this is the 7th month of solid green candles, and it is very reminiscent of this run up we had in 2021, which actually started in October, so a month later, and lasted until March of this month here, and then April's where it turned around. And this is, you know, it does look remarkably similar, although the starting levels were ever so slightly different. And I've been calling for a pullback for a few months now, because it's genuinely needed it. And later on, we're going to have a look at some, you know, indicators like the RSI and just general sentiment overall, fear and greeds, you know, tip 92 or something like that. And so, yes, I would expect a pullback. It's too easy. That's the ultimate point. It is too easy right now to make money in crypto. And typically, we end up getting on the bloody nose. You know, we get punched in the face. Well, let's just talk right now. I was going to cover Bitcoin a little bit later on, but I think it's a fair question to ask. So I'll just jump to some of these other charts we're doing here. Okay, so we're on the weekly on this one here. And we haven't seen the 50 EMA on the weekly since September. Well, October is the first one it happened. And whilst, okay, I'm not necessarily suggesting we're going to see a huge immediate crash down to there. Let's just say, you know, we have a pullback to, I mean, even we had the pullback today to what, the 68,000, but that didn't really feel enough. Seems we're back up at 71. But let's just say we pull back to, I don't know, 60 to 58,000, which in reality, from where we are, I will zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. So that's a 20% pullback, just to that level there. Let's zoom in. Okay, and that would hurt. You know, I mean, we're used for the last 4 or 5 weeks looking at our portfolio, wherever you have it on, just seeing green, 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 green. It's been incredible. I don't have it up at the moment, but I was telling someone the last 30 days for me, my portfolio is up about 48%. So a pullback of 20% would hurt. It would hurt because I'm so used to having a look at the green. But ultimately, you know, stick to the plan. Yes, if you have money on the sideline, yes, you've got an opportunity to buy in there. But if you haven't, if that bull market is going to continue and it is just a pullback rather than a change of fortunes, then it will recover. And, you know, we're too used to seeing the green. What I'm trying to say is don't undo all the hard work you've done by just FOMOing out of the market. You know, accept that pullbacks need to happen. And this really does need to happen. I appreciate, we're going to talk about institutions a little bit later on and the buying pressure for BTC and how that's having a knock-on effect onto cryptos. Absolutely. But just because there's an ETF doesn't mean price moves up and down. Gold has not gone straight up for the last 20 years. It's had its pullbacks. Yes, you zoom out on the monthly, it looks like it's generally gone up, but actually it has its pullbacks. And these ETFs, you know, got a chart here for these ETFs. Where is it? It's not what I wanted. I think I've got another one here. If you just bear with me. Yeah. Look at these ETFs. So, oh, what's that? Yeah, Blackrock, Fidelity, all of these. Not so long ago, the price of these ETFs, I should have had these tickers on TradingView. I might actually have them. they were like 26 cents. Do I have them? Do I have them? Do I Eckers? IBIT. Just do IBIT. Let's see if that one. So look, it started off at $24, and this one only went back to 7th of September, 7th of February. I swear it was actually a little bit lower than that. It's now at 40. So these people that are in ETFs, they've made 50%. They've almost doubled their investment in 6 weeks. Now, these guys are used to having to do it in the likes of gold in the stock markets, so that kind of speed and that kind of profit is unheard of. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to jump straight out, of course not. But at some stage, they're going to want to take some profit as well. And so I don't see it as an always and only up scenario. We're going to have the ebbs and flows, but right now it's very hot, it's very popular, and it's proving that the demand is still very high. And unfortunately, there is a supply squeeze. And I say unfortunately, it's great if we're in the market because, hey, we just want the price to go up. And as long as altcoins are generally moving in the same direction as Bitcoin, it doesn't necessarily matter if we're not fully in Bitcoin within it. We're still benefiting from that. But we need that cool-off period. We really do. It's starting to get to a point now where it's almost becoming a bit of a laughing stock. So let's just have a look. I want to take it down onto the daily. We know that level was there, and we had this 60,000 level. So we had that run up. We had a couple of days of consolidation, which was kind of every weekend. Then we had that sharp move up. So that pull back down to that level there, and there's a couple of vector candles now. We move the goalpost. I remember only a few weeks ago saying that a move down to 40,000 would be relatively healthy. Well, as we keep on climbing into the 70s, a move down to 40,000 is not necessarily healthy. That's going to feel very painful. But a move down into the 60s, somewhere in the 50s, even if we got all the way down to 52,000, as scary as that may be, because it's a 20 grand drop from the current price at the moment, as long as we can maintain that level and we can build off that, then that's going to help. It's going to reset a lot of those indicators, going to reset the market in terms of fear. It's going to present a buying opportunity. And let's face it, with the likes of Blackrock and et al., all the other ETFs, that's going to present an ideal buying opportunity. They're not afraid to buy at 70,000. You sure as shit know they're not going to be afraid to buy at 52,000. And so, the market should recover from those. Now, in terms of what that will do for the rest of the crypto market, should we see a correction, and in particular Tau, I don't believe that any crypto is necessarily disconnected from Bitcoin, unless you're talking about stablecoin. And so I believe that would drive the price down of all of the other ones. And if we're looking at a 20% fall on Bitcoin, then we're looking at least a 20% fall generally across the market. So a 20% fall from where we are at the moment kind of takes us down to the 50 EMA of around about 550. Now, that's probably best case scenario because typically while alts burst up faster, they also bleed harder. So we might see something more akin to a 30% correction, which may take us down into the 400s, somewhere in and around there. But again, that's not necessarily a scary thing from where we currently sit because we've got previous price action here. We'll have recovered that vector candle and we would have flushed down to this 50 EMA and I admit beyond, which again, we haven't touched since January of this year. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem. Again, for me, I wouldn't necessarily be looking at sidestepping. I would just buy the dip because we are in the bull market and sidestepping is a lot riskier when we're in the bull market. And if it is Tau that you're interested in, it's likely that you're staking it. So you're getting rewards anyway. So yes, it may go down in price, but ultimately you're getting free Tau at the same time. Maybe not at the rate in which it's gone down, but ultimately when it does recover, and we all believe that it will, you'll be in a better position. You were the risk to reward of sidestepping. Yes, you might be able to time the bomb, but if you miss it, and trust me, that happened to me, remember, because I sold nicely up here. Oh, that's gone. I sold at that sort of 260, 270 level, thinking we'd get down to 170, but we didn't. I missed days of it hitting 200, and in the end, I was buying on this way back up. So, first-hand experience, it doesn't always work out. So, just play it smart with that. I just want to go back to the question and make sure I've answered it properly. I I do not believe that we can go to the middle of next summer, another 15 months without some form of pullback. I used to say that no crypto cycle is different. This one does feel different, but it doesn't mean that, human sentiment goes out of the window. People will take profit, whether that be retail or institution. People will take profit. Market makers, they prefer volatility, not only up. So they don't mind trapping people on the way up, but at some stage they're going to reverse it so they can actually get paid and start then placing their longs for the next move up after that. Okay, right. Going to talk about the institutional side of it. Back to that sort of thumbnail of, where do we want to be in 2025? Do we want to be no Bitcoin or no coiners, no crypto whatsoever? Do we want to be Bitcoiners / cryptoers? And why am I talking about that? Well, there have been a few news articles out. There's been a few, some of them are unverified tweets, I accept. But what we have seen over the last 6 to 8 weeks is an incredible amount of demand and buying pressure from the ETFs, effectively purchasing 420,000 BTC in the space of 8 weeks. So, so I just read something in chat and it threw me. And what people are effectively saying is if this rate of purchase continues, then actually in 6 months' time, we are going to have a liquidity crisis. We're going to have such a supply squeeze, in part given to the halving, which we'll talk about in a moment. But exchanges are potentially going to run out of crypto. And I think, for those of you that have been in crypto, even in a day, but for those of us that have been in crypto 1 or 2 cycles, we probably take for granted something which in 2 more cycles will probably be unheard of. But we take for granted that we can fire up any exchange, go on there anytime. I'm smiling because I know I'm going to finish this sentence. Buy some Bitcoin and move it to a wallet for our keeping. And yeah, okay, there are times where the likes of Coinbase go down and there is maintenance on other exchanges. I completely get that. But generally, 99% of the time that we interact with an exchange, we can buy the crypto. In this case, I just want to talk about Bitcoin. We can buy the Bitcoin. It goes into a hot wallet on the exchange, but we can generally move it. Maybe it takes a couple of hours because they want to verify it or whatever to our own wallet. Well, it could well be that in the next cycle or the cycle after that, that is not what we're looking at because just exchanges will not have Bitcoin readily available for the likes of retail to purchase. And so, we may be looking at this time thinking, wow, that's something that we really dropped the ball on. I know. I mean, let's just have a look at how the ETFs have performed. And I feel like I show this chart every week. But at the moment, ETFs combined with Grayscale, so we've got to deduct the Grayscale stuff, which is about 480,000. I think it's actually 388,000, sorry. There's 800,000 BTC held by the ETFs, including Grayscale. So take off 380,000, leaves you about 418. That's where I got the 420 from. Spread across the other providers. So we're talking $56 billion worth. But these are the things you want to have a look at. This is the buying. This is how it all happened. So this is the selling. This is Grayscale selling as well. There's a few others that have sold. So Invesco have sold a little bit along the way. But generally, these are huge amounts of purchases. And I think it was the beginning of the month, so the 6th, so this last Wednesday, the most amount bought in a single day, over $1 billion worth. And yesterday we closed with a cool $500 million worth of BTC purchased by ETFs. And, that's taken on board what Grayscale are selling as well. So they are gobbling this up and they ain't leaving it for us retail to then have 2 of them. It's not paper gold like we see there where each piece of gold can be sold 10 times. No, they're buying it and they're moving it. That's ours. And they're locking that away, which is obviously what we encourage you lot, or us retail, to do. But they are getting this at an incredible speed, and exchanges are starting to run out of crypto. And I'm trying to remember which chart it's on. Can't find it. Just to flick through them all. Probably here we go. So crypto quants, a bit like Glassnodes. So this doesn't look like much. So this is Bitcoin exchange reserves, and it's for Bitcoin, obviously. So we got the price of Bitcoin is in USD, so we can remove that just to take it. And this line here is the exchange reserves. This is all exchanges, and this is the amount of reserves. Now, it only goes from April of 2021, which is a shame because it does keep the data prior to that, but I just can't seem to load it. Maybe because I need to pay for this or something. But in the run up to that, you can actually see the exchanges for years were getting more and more Bitcoin because the likes of MicroStrategy, Grayscale, and the ETFs weren't gobbling it up. So miners were producing more because of the halvings. We were getting more each day anyway. And so the exchange was just buying them. But ever since April 21, we have generally seen the markets drop away. And we've gone from 2.75 approximately million to around about 2 million. So 750,000 Bitcoin have been taken off the exchanges, which kind of sounds scary, but actually that's over 3 years. And since the exchanges have been launched, we've actually only gone from 2.09 million down to 2.033 million. So where are the exchanges buying? Sorry, the ETFs are buying a lot of their Bitcoin. Well, ultimately they're buying them at the moment from Grayscale, who are selling quite a lot. You got to remember that Grayscale are having to sell them at the moment because of companies like FTX going into liquidation. And so they're having to sell those off to cover the debts there. And I'm sure they're just being bought by the ETFs. There is also the OTC market, which I did have a chart, and then just before I closed it by mistake, I can't be bothered to necessarily find it. But last week we actually saw that OTC desks had dried up to such a point that allegedly, by a well-placed source, or I couldn't confirm who that is, only 40 BTC were available across all of the OTC markets on Wednesday. So we're seeing, there is starting to be that squeeze. And then we talk about the most overrated, and that's not fair, the biggest non-event in the crypto calendar, the Bitcoin halving. There's no point staying up for it. It'll probably be in the middle of the night. Nothing changes except for the emission rate drops, which is important. It is a big event, but literally to see it tick over, it's like watching your car go from 9,999 miles to 10,000. It's gratifying for about a second. So we're going to go from roughly 900 BTC being issued a day down to 450 BTC issued a day. And again, that just means that as long as ETFs and the public are buying up more than 450 BTC a day and they're taking it off the exchanges, then slowly but surely the exchanges are going to continue to reduce in the amount of Bitcoin they've got available to sell. And I still swear, I mean, I've never gone and done it, but if we took every single exchange you could imagine that is offering the sale of BTC, and I'm even talking about some of these gambling sites like Stake that offer their rewards in BTC, you can't tell me that some of them aren't double counting the BTC, because it doesn't feel like 2 million's enough. I don't know how much Bitcoin and Binance has, but you think how many different exchanges there are, which again is why we always encourage you to take it off, because whilst they in theory can't sell the same Bitcoin twice, whilst it's on an exchange they potentially can paper sell that. Just hope that people keep it on there. I lost my train of thought because I had that little rant there, but yeah, we are getting to a point now where it is starting to be a little bit of an issue. Don't think we necessarily need this chart. I was hoping I'll go into that one in a second. So this little graph going through at the bottom, trying to move it to the top so you can kind of see, is it just repeats, so you can watch it whilst I chat. It's just a total BTC that has been purchased since the ETFs launched at the beginning or the middle of January. And as I say, you get to that magic figure of 419,000. But I've just shown you that we've only seen a 60,000 drop in BTC off exchanges. As I said, Grayscale over that same period have gone from 616,000 to 388,000. So some quick maths there, it's about 240,000. They've gone and sold the BTC purchases. Really, what we're looking for is around about 180,000 worth, 60,000 from exchanges. They'll have bought more because people are selling, fools are selling their Bitcoin to Blackrock. There'll be other larger investors that will be looking to take profit. We saw that wallet at all-time high sold, I can't remember how many thousands it was. And then there'll be the OTC deals that are ultimately going forward as well. But there will come a time when Grayscale are like, right, we've covered all of our losses and we're not selling anymore, because they still value the price of Bitcoin. And they will want to keep it. And then suddenly, what we've really got to talk about is, or what ratio are ETFs currently outstripping the purchase of BTC? And if we're mining 900, let's not worry too much about the halving at the moment. For 900 a day, yeah, and it's taken 60 days, so that's 54,000. Someone could correct my maths if I'm wrong. 54,000 Bitcoin have been mined over that period. Yet there's 3 or 4 times that amount in which the ETFs have bought, and they don't look like they're slowing down. There are some that are going pretty slow along the bottom, but the likes of Fidelity and Blackrock are certainly not slowing down. But why are they doing that? And that's the crux of what I'm trying to get to. You know, they obviously see Bitcoin differently to retail. And then that seems like a strange thing to say, because retail, we love the 4-year cycle. We know the 4-year cycle because we've been through it. It's a year of stagnation, 2 years of growth, and it's a year of a bear market. Well, if we know that, then institutions are going to know that. So why don't they just follow the same pattern? Why don't they just wait till the bottom of the bear market in December or the year after the peak, just YOLO in then, buy a large amount straight away, and then just, you know, sell 3 years later, rinse and repeat? And I dare say it's because the 4-year cycle is created by retail, us, because it just makes us feel more intelligent. You know, you take the likes of Grayscale, you take the likes of Mircostrategy. They didn't dump at the bear market. They didn't dump at all-time high. They continued to buy. Matter of fact, Michael Saylor was the laughing stock of you know, the community, because we thought it was all going to go bankrupt. Now he's hailed as Bitcoin Jesus once again, because his company is absolutely worth, you know, I can't remember how high it is, but it's in the, you know, 40, 50, 60 billion or whatever it is. And, you know, that's just from their Bitcoin holdings. They actually do have, you know, some computer-based business behind it as well, which no one ever seems to talk about. And these ETFs, they're exactly the same. They don't bother if Bitcoin's 70,000, because they're not thinking about the 4-year cycle. They don't care about the 4-year cycle. They understand what Bitcoin really is going to be. They understand what Bitcoin's going to be in the future, and they understand that it is a finite asset. Ultimately, when it's gone, it's gone. And those last few scraps people are going to be fighting over are going to cost, one, an awful lot of money, and two, people are going to be very, very reluctant to part with it. And so that institutional mindset, the likes of Blackrock, the likes of Grayscale and MicroStrategy and the other ETFs there, maybe should tell us something about what we're really doing in terms of how we're playing cycles, how we're looking for going into cycles. And if you believe truly in the power law, and I didn't bother getting the graph up because I would have been struggling with the 10 to the power 10s and all that kind of stuff. But by 2034, I think Giovanni seems to think that we'll be getting to 10 million per Bitcoin. See, that's the end game that Blackrock are looking for. You know, now suddenly they are a force to be reckoned with, especially if they're holding, you know, by that time 300,000 BTC on their books. It's going to be, you know, incredible thing there. And suddenly, as I've mentioned a couple of times before, owning one Bitcoin is going to be impossible for the average man. It's going to be only 0.01 of the Bitcoin which people are going to strive for. So the reason I put that poll up was because, you know, where are we taking our profit at the end of this one? Everything is linked, I promise you. And thank you to everyone that has contributed towards it. Because I admit, you know, a couple of months ago when I was looking at this before the ETFs launched, I'm going all into fiat. I'm going to ride it out for a year and then I'll just dump it all back in and everything will be absolutely fine. But the way things are going, and of course we'll keep an eye on it over the next 12 to 15 months, but it certainly looks like Blackrock et al. Are going to strip exchanges of available Bitcoin. Okay, there's not going to be much on there, which is going to cause a supply squeeze, which is going to mean that the price will stay high. Even in a bear market, it may not drop as far as people think it's going to go. But I don't see the likes of Blackrock, Fidelity selling large chunks. They will probably sell some. You know, people will want to take money at different times. And so actually trying to strive now, even if it means short term, you may not get the profits that you want, but thinking about the final picture of, well, in 10 years' time, at least I can say I've got one Bitcoin in my back pocket, which, would be considered a considerable amount of wealth, rather than taking the potential risk of going into fiat, trying to catch the bottom, finding you can't catch the bottom, or worse still, see if I can find it. At the bottom of the market, you go to buy a Bitcoin off Coinbase, and this is what you're presented with. And I think this is a reality. It may not happen the next cycle, but ultimately this is going to be a reality. And what's actually going to happen, and this is an artificially generated screenshots. I don't think that this has happened yet. But what may happen is when you go to buy a Bitcoin, it won't give you a price. It'll just say price on application. And you'll be forced to wait to see what you have to pay when they find someone that actually wants to sell it to you. And so, yeah, we are still, on the right side of being able to have some amount of Bitcoin in a wallet in which people are going to look back and think you were lucky to be there. And so I do look now at the exit plans, and I do think to myself, well, maybe actually it shouldn't be fully 100% fiat. Maybe I should take some into Bitcoin. And yes, just ride that down, ride it back up. I know we all like to think we can time it and sidestep it, but just don't take everything into that mindset. Keep some for the rainy day fund, because hopefully, if Tau and that gets to where it gets to, we'll have enough to spend for the 3 years whilst we're waiting for the next bull run. Having some there now. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think I'll ever sell my business BTC now with that mindset. I think that's kind of like, for me, that's my pension, if you will, almost, because I do see it as that incredibly valuable commodity that people will be incredibly jealous of. And now linking it back to where I was at before, I told you it was all linked. Because maybe the answer to my question about what I'm going to do with NEAR is not to sell it to USDT, it's actually to take into Bitcoin. Because the Bitcoin pairs, I'll take the example here, and again in Discord I did post, it wasn't a gloating point of view, it was a point for tonight. This on the weekly chart, but I did 3 fairly decent purchases of NEAR down here. Now, in terms of what the value was in USD, it was $1, $1.13, and $1.14. We're now getting close to $8 at the moment, but it's also increased considerably in BTC value. And so actually, although there is a tax event to be considered, is it that I actually, is it that I actually think that just take some of the profit now into BTC? I mean, it's over 3x its current position, which is not a bad place to be. It gives me a bit of BTC because I did sell my personal BTC back at 50,000, so I could move more into the likes of Tau and everything else. So I don't regret that move. But now, just when I'm thinking about taking profit, do I look to take profit into BTC so that, 1, it can accumulate going up in a bit more value anyway, but 2, it's got that rainy day fund in the background. And I think, for me, looking back to that thumbnail, that reality that I want to be in, is I want to be a Bitcoin in summer 2025. I don't want to be a fully Bitcoiner, bills to pay and life to get on with. And I don't want to, I want to keep this Bitcoin for a very long time. But I want to be in a position where I own, I don't want to be in a position where I've got 0.1 Bitcoin. I want to be 1 Bitcoin and more. And I want to make sure that I don't squander that away for the gratification of USDT or dollars or pounds or whatever for a couple of years and then waste that in 10 years' time looking back on it. So it's certainly got my mind open into what I'm thinking, and potentially I've ranted on a little bit too long about that. But yeah, that's just my thought. And looking at the poll here, let's just end it and see where we get to. It's just disappeared. So we have into fiat, 50% of you, mainly fiat, some BTC at 38%. Nobody just into BTC, mainly BTC, and some into fiat, 11%. So I don't think any of those 3 answers are wrong by any stretch of the imagination. I think there's ultimately some pullback, and even if you're new to crypto now, by the time you get to the next sort of bull run, etc., you will have the experience to understand and to go with your gut about when to get back in, and you'll hopefully understand the phases to which to get back into. So I do think you'll be presented with an opportunity. But I think just having some BTC, for me anyway, and just thinking about what I do with my pots and for my family and everything else, I think that it works very well. Let's have a look. What have we done? Do you remember off the top of your head when I first asked you about injecting? It was about a year ago. I don't want to even think about what the price of it was back then, but let's have a look. About a year ago. About a year ago. I mean, it's just sad, isn't it? We might have been here, but I think we're kind of around about here. So it's somewhere from $4 to $8. It's now stood at 50. So I hope you got some MIGs. I hope you kept it. I'm expert. Perhaps when BTC dries up on the exchanges, will people to turn to silver, crypto, Ethereum? They may well do. And speaking of silver, keep reminding me. So Bitcoin surpassed the overall market cap of silver recently. And next in its sight is Google, and it's not that far away. You know, Bitcoin gets to 80,000. We're overtaking Google and potentially even Amazon. So we are starting to climb up it at the moment. Silver is done. Facebook is done. And we've just got these next few to go. And by the end of the bull run, if people think it's going to get to where it's going to get to, we should be number 2. Bitcoin should be number 2. Anywhere from 3 to 5 trillion. So yeah, nicely tied in there. Thank you very much. James put super interesting. I think it's food for thought. I think one of the problems I have now is because I'm 90% in the market, got more time on my hands to ponder, and that can be a good or a bad thing. But I know, a lot of us here are actual investors, and we invest in other things, and we kind of see that longevity in things. And even if it's just 5-10% of your profits, just keeping it in Bitcoin, still plenty to go home and brag about and take the high fives for. But I assure you, in 10 years' time, that 10% is what you'll be taking the high fives for. Any update about the Mt. Gox BTC release? I don't actually. It's gone a bit quiet. I can certainly have a look, but I'm afraid I don't at the moment. Okay, let's go in and have a look at some of the other things we've got at the moment. So the question is, where's BTC going? What are we going to do? And the real answer is we have no idea. And I don't mean that to be flippant. We're in price discovery. We don't necessarily know how far we've got left to run, but we can work off some indicators to give us some form of an idea. I love my indicators. Before we do that, it's not wanted. Far too many of these open. We talked about RSI a little bit earlier on. So this is Bitcoin on the weekly chart. And one of the reasons that I am concerned that we need the pullback. And in a bull run, we will stay higher than the market thinks we can. But I argue the longer we stay too high and overbought, the sharper and the more aggressive the drop recovery will be. But on the RSI, just put that on full screen, we are currently sitting at 89 on the RSI. Now, if you look at this level, just put a line on it. Yeah, we've had some interaction around that 90 level quite a few times. And we've only ever broken above it 3 times, 2 of which 2013, 2014, when we only had a couple of cryptocurrencies out here. The only other time we've broken above it was when Bitcoin soared in January of 2021. And that didn't last long either. So it doesn't mean that the bull run's over, but at some stage we're going to see a reset. And I'll keep on saying that every week. I will happily be wrong. I'm not going to capo it. I'm not going to be saying we're going down to 12K, but I do feel like we need a reset. I absolutely do. I mean, you throw into that. Let's have a look. So the fear and greed. We've got 2 different things on the fear and greed. So the standard fear and greed you get from alternative.me is at 81. Last week it was at 90. But if you actually have a look at it on CoinMarketCap, we're sitting at 92. Now, they take different metrics and different sentiments to get to it. But we are somewhere in and around, we're extreme greed on both, but between 81 and 92. And I dare say if today finishes where it is, we'll probably end up level. I think we will, we had that drop, but you can see the buying. You can see the interest in levels of buying because how quickly that drop got eaten up. But yeah, we're just floating in and around the level that we rarely see, and we rarely spend a lot of time. So that clump up here, it is possible to stay up that high. But yeah, I expect us to find some form of fallback. Loads of things are important. And let's not kid ourselves. How do I get this back on to just be a chat? I want to do it. Yeah. Which works well. I mean, look at how parabolic that is. That is pretty much as vertical as what we had here. And what did we see? I mean, on the way there, 30% pullback, 40% pullback, 50% pullback, recover. So I do feel we're going to see it. Let's have a look at where it may go. How have we done? Let's get rid of that. So we don't need it. Leave it clean. I mean, the problem we've got now, we've got two options, for my infamous Fibonacci's, is we either run it from the top to the bottom and just see how that plays out. Okay. We got, definitely some interaction in and around here, so there's potentially some levels within that. And what we're suggesting, maybe a level, maybe 79,000, maybe there, 86, 96. Okay, Fibonacci's, I think they work quite well, but didn't care about that one. Certainly didn't care about that one, and it certainly didn't care about the all-time high either. So don't be fooled in thinking they always work out. But if I have to use something to try and gauge where we're potentially going to, because I can't see any way to draw any trend lines at the moment, we'll have a go in a second. And Fibonacci, and that 78, 79, 80,000 level, I think is somewhere where we potentially could have a look. I don't know. I'm literally freehand drawing this with no expectation of what this has done in the past. I mean, that's not going to work. Maybe. Kind of stretching a little bit, but there is something there. And again, kind of tying in with about 75, and depending how long it takes. But yeah, I feel we need some sort of correction. And so we can have a look at. I mean, the problem you got is even if you drew from here to here, said, oh, this is going to, I'd have to do from wick to wick, just because, let's just say that wick was the top, the rejection at 73. We got some of those other levels we talked about. I'll zoom in so you can see them. When we had a look at the other, and we did talk about that 59, 60,000 level, which we know had a vector candle there, and some previous price action and interest. Maybe that's it. Down to that 52, 618. It's, down where the 50 EMA is on the weekly. Potentially could be an area to get interested. It's certainly going to scare a lot of people, and I imagine it would reset it. I think a fall all the way back down to sub 40. I think that's bad news. Well, and speed, but yeah, that's going to really shake a lot of people. But it just still shows strength. Ultimately, that's the thing, and I'm glad I'm not trading this at the moment because I just wouldn't know where to go. My heart says it can still go up. There's still hype behind it. My head says we need to have some form of pullback. I'd probably be sitting on the fence with where it goes. I mean, let's take it down to the 12-hour. Still keep these around. But yeah, it ties in there, and that sort of price action in and around is fine. We had 3 bites at the cherry on the 12-hour, up at 73,000, and some fairly clean rejections. But again, it's a nice purchase back up on that wick. Up down to what, to 68.5. I think I must have been on the school run because I didn't even see it. So yeah, one unfortunately to watch, and we'll just have to wait and see. Now let's have a look at some of the others like Tau, because Tau's interesting. Let's ignore what Bitcoin's doing. Just have a look at this solely based on itself. And again, we had that all-time high up to 760. But since then, and you can draw this one of two ways. You can either do it from the bodies, doesn't necessarily matter, or you can do it from the wicks. I'll leave both too close to each other. But you get the point that there's some sort of level at the moment. This is just, it's been sold off as soon as it hits that trend line. Maybe wicks it better. Okay, and then similarly in the bottom, kind of got one. Now it has broken through it a couple of times, but maybe that's because we're on the 12-hour, not the 4-hour. But you kind of get the point. And what is that? Typically, falling compression in a rising market, and they're the kind of things that we like to trade all the time, especially if it gets into that 20% apex. And that's where we're getting towards. And I've got a fairly decent bag at the moment. I've been buying the last couple of days again, some more, because I feel like there's better potential for the upside just taking it on its own merit, and it is falling down. I've seen some, I think even Migs might have talked about, head and shoulders, and I did try and look for it, Migs. I don't know if you were thinking left shoulder, head, and then we're trying to see if there's another shoulder forming here, maybe. But at the moment, I'm not really seeing that. For me, right now, there's that compression that I talked about, which I'm going to draw roughly again. Doesn't matter, you all got the point last time. But then we've got horizontally as well. Some form of support here. And it kind of feels like that's working out. And I'll throw something else into the works for Tau and confluences. And again, there's some form of trend line in and around. Oh, it worked. It looked a lot better on the daily. On my other chart, I'll be honest. But here, something like that. I'm sure I connected it there. It must be on a different. I must have used like the Q coin instead of the Mexi. But you can kind of see that it has been snaking up this, bounced off it. No other EMAs. I'll show you the EMAs in a moment. But all signs there seem to suggest to me that we're coming close to whatever this drop is, and we should see some form of turnaround. There's a confluence of activity in and around there. So for those of you that are still wanting to get a little bit of Tau sub 700, that might be the time to do it. Shame. Let me just put that chart on. Tau. Put it on the daily. Again, with the daily here, what I was wanting to show with the EMAs is just how well it's been sticking to the 10. And it does lose a 10. The 20 catches it. So we're right on the 10 at the moment. The wicks have kind of been down there. At some stage, yeah, I do expect it to get to the 50. But right now, that's tracking up. So, won't be long till that's in 600. But yeah, looking good. Polkadot's had a good run. Today's been a bit of a cooling off, but yesterday was a hell of a run. So no real surprise there. Looking strong again. Last month or so, just at 10, 20, now getting into the 200 level is coming back into play as well. So it won't be long till we have sort of a whole myriad of EMAs to help us. And then, again, let's put it on the weekly so we can see it's a bit cleaner. And we're breaking clean of noise. I think I'd be slicker at doing this, but I'm not. And so for me, the next level that I'm looking at is, find it. Come on, you know what? I've realized no point even doing it on this chart. So in fact, I'm not gonna. Let's get back to this one. What's happened here? Weekly. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Got a bit lost on the timescales there. So this is my take profit chart for Polkadot. It's got a bit of a way to go to the 22, but we're halfway there now. And again, 15, the level I was trying to get at, is looking nice, from previous price action. And again, it's kind of clear space. We got where we are right now is our little battle. So maybe that's why we had a bit pullback. But should we break that, I don't really see anything that's going to stop us heading up there. Something was announced recently at a conference. So there's a thing on Polkadot called Snowbridge, which is effectively just going to help to bridge to Ethereum, provide that liquidity and everything else a lot quicker. It was going to originally be released on Kusama first, the testnet, but actually for some reason I haven't looked into why. They're actually going to launch it straight on Polkadot. Maybe that's what helped in the recent climb up. I don't necessarily know. But it is starting to move now, and it's starting to have a positive side of things, which is good. How much I believe in Polkadot and where it's going. So this is starting to pay off rather nicely. I'm gonna have to delete Link because I don't have it anymore. Had I had Link, I would have taken profit twice, and it's done those quite nicely. As you all know, I sold far too early on that one, so that's not necessarily a problem for me anymore. Going back to the other charts. Ethereum, we've kind of gone through a bit earlier. CAS, still CAS. I'm sorry, sniffed down the microphone. Apologies there. So again, I posted this in Discord, but I actually see CAS. I know we've been talking about CAS versus Tau pair, and potentially there's a lot more room for Tau to outperform CAS, but that doesn't mean that CAS doesn't have the potential to go up at the same time. It'd just be the rate at which they climb. But I argue again, very similar in nature. I think it is better on the 12-hour. We are forming some form of compression again in here. We've got a little bit further to go to the apex. I'll give it that. But we're getting there. Now, we're under the 50, the 12 as well. But I just feel that this is setting up, again, quite nicely. Looking in the previous price history for potential, some sort of confluence here to see price come down, head up. And whilst I may not be the world's biggest fan on Casper, I'm the world's biggest fan on increasing the value of my portfolio. So I will be looking to make a purchase shortly. And I'm just going to, even if I get in if we ever get back down to here, and just wait. If it falls a little bit further, we're talking the difference between 14 dead and 13.7. Not exactly the end of the world. Then just be looking to take that. And I don't just expect it to get back to all-time highs. To be honest with you, I expect it to break on through past there. So I think there's definitely an opportunity. Conscious of where the time is, I've still got that other section to do. So I just want to quickly talk about Tau Inu. So we've got Tau Inu. Excuse my stupid squiggles. I have been trading this. I know a lot of you haven't. But I have, so just a few squiggles in where it's going. It's on a 1 hour chart. 5 minutes is what I've been working on, the absolute degen chart. So you have to bear with me. But yeah, I kind of, for the past few days, it's kind of respected this channel quite nicely. Turned around up there again. Good see, although I think I had this here previously. I think it must have just moved up. But yeah, I think for anyone that doesn't have any entries, this 1.5 cents sort of level, I feel like it'd probably be a good place to enter. Volume is pretty low, and then we just have, it spikes up because someone comes in and buys 15 ETH worth or whatever. But we don't have long till the listing. Certainly the way donations have been going in at the moment, and that could change absolutely everything. So if you are on the sidelines, you've got some on the sidelines or looking to potentially get some more, you may find yourself in a position where you end up missing out there. Okay, just to round off this little bit before I go on to the next one, are there any other questions on anything or anything anyone wants to have a look at? Appreciate it. I was an hour and 40 minutes of rambling through, and I tried to keep it quick. But unfortunately, as always, quite a lot to go through. Okay, I'm just going to jump straight into the next bit, and hopefully that won't take too long. That was the actual one I wanted. If anyone does have any questions, I will go back to them. I promise. Yep, this is it. So last week, Alex asked me if I could go through both VR, Victoria VR, and Neo. So just very quickly, can't find anything on Neo. None of those are price tracked. And I even checked on CoinGecko and I couldn't see anything. So I'm not sure which one you were particularly talking about there. If it is something you still want me to have a look at, I'll have to cover it next week. But then the other one was Victoria VR, which is a VR-based platform, which is obviously tackling quite a lot of things, including the metaverse, which is potential to be maybe not a huge sector within this next bull run, but definitely within a sector, the gaming sector, the GameFi sector of the market space. So it caught my interest, and when we were looking at the graphics and the Unreal Engine they're using and some of the developers they have behind it, I kind of felt like last week probably I didn't want to skim over it too quickly. This one has been around a while, so don't think it's a flash in the pan. Came out actually at the top of the bull market in 2021, so some very unfortunate timing there. And what we actually saw was it bled out like everything else did in 2022, and it dropped around about 90%, which sounds a lot, but actually most altcoins did drop 90%. So whilst this looks like it's dead, that's just because it just had a bad launch time. That's all it was. Just had a very poor launch window, thinking it could rush out there. And actually, given where we currently are in terms of hardware and software, that might not be necessarily a bad thing to give it a few years to work on its development. So what exactly is it? It is, they are built, it's an opportunity to use virtual reality. And the reason I'm hesitant to say that is obviously a lot of the initial stuff is built off the gaming sector, and they're looking to see how they can integrate VR software with obviously hardware you're going to need to run it with to create that metaverse, and that metaverse being whether it's just a enclosed world game or an open world game. But to be fair to them, and once you delve into it a little bit further, it's not the only thing they're looking to have a look at. They're going to try and use the metaverse for things like, office meetings and that kind of level of interaction with people that is, I want to say IRL, but obviously it's in the metaverse, but it's not based on a game. It's just based on people getting together, Ready Player One, however you want to look at it. So that's kind of where they're focusing on. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks or months, we've had the release of the, what's it called? The Apple Vision Pro, which is a huge step forward in the VR space. And much like when the iPhone launched in 2007, the smartphone, as it was, that was the first ever real smartphone out there. I think the Apple Vision Pro is going to force other people to very quickly develop competing technology, which is only going to benefit the likes of Victoria VR. Now, I will say one reservation is the Apple Vision Pro is like $3,500. So, in terms of them trying to dedicate towards the Apple Vision Pro, which I'm not saying that they are solely looking at that, you have got a huge barrier to entry just in the cost of the hardware to go from there. Now, they've got the white paper, which feel free to go download and read through your leisure. It doesn't necessarily offend me. It's fairly generic, but it covers what you would expect it to cover, what they want to do, tokenomics, the team, some of the technology in and around those, and most importantly, any partnerships that they have. And they do have some fairly decent partnerships, and I think it's on this page. So it's based off an Unreal Engine. For those of you that aren't particularly into gaming, let's just say that is one of the best engines out there, and it certainly provides a very competent level in which developers can build games off that, which can compete against standard games. So having a look at some of the partners, Oculus, obviously it's a VR. So we talked about Unreal, NVIDIA, Intel. We've got Dell. They haven't come up. Alienware are I want to say a hardware provider for computers as well, keyboards, chairs, and mouses, and all that kind of stuff. So they've got some very good partnerships out there that they've helped to develop over the years. They've got the tokenomics that come with it as well. In terms of the tokenomics, where is it? There are, these tokenomics are different to CoinMarketCap. So CoinMarketCap is we've got 16.8 billion tokens in circulating supply, but it's saying we've only got 2.8 actually circulating. So 16.8 total and 2.8 circulating, which is only 17%. Bear in mind, this has been out for 3 years. That feels very low. So you certainly, if you are thinking about vesting in it, no, there's a lot more tokens to come out. So you need to have a look at the vesting periods for that. On Twitter, I kind of like the marketing kind of stuff. How they're sort of portraying some of the games across the vision and things. I think it's very appealing, and they do keep things relatively up to date in terms of what they're doing and how they're developing things behind the scenes. So I got nothing necessarily on with the social sides of stuff. For me personally, again, I don't necessarily have anything wrong with the company or have used the game in terms of a VR sense to know if it's any good. I'm not going to invest in it, not because I don't think this can do well. I think it definitely can in terms of the sector it's entering in. And if some of the games look half as good as what the visuals do when it promos them on YouTube and the like, then I think they're going to do very well. But for me, when I'm talking about the gaming sector, I'm more looking at sort of the platform base rather than individual games, because I just feel there's a better chance of success with those. But Alex, I don't think you've found the dud here by any sense of the means. I would definitely look at the tokenomics. I think the roadmap and making sure that roadmap's up to date and how that's going to incorporate with the movement forward of the advancement of the technology and the hardware that goes with it. But at the moment, the barrier to entry being the price of those may be restricted in the initial beginning of its life. So yeah, something to have a look at. Final thing that I just want to touch on is a project that was brought to my attention in another Discord group a few weeks ago. It's probably something I'm going to talk about quite a lot because I actually do like it, and I'm hoping to get in on it. And that is called Entangled, or NGL. Okay, so it is a blockchain. It's its own blockchain, it's Omni blockchain. So basically what that means is that yes, what has a blockchain, it has a layer above it which allows it to interact with a lot of other blockchains seamlessly. So that interoperability that comes with it. It hasn't launched yet. It launches tomorrow. It launches on Bybit, Mexi, KuCoin, and Gate. And there's quite a lot of hype around this. So I'm not going to be jumping in at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. I've got a feeling this thing is going to do what a lot of these hype projects do. There were pre-sale rounds and all that kind of stuff. So we may find that there's quite a bit of a manipulation to start off with, which is why I ultimately may miss the chance to get in on it. But I think for me, in terms of layer ones, but also what else it provides. So it's going to deal with real world assets. RWAs is a sector which I think will be hot this sector. I don't think it's going to be volcano hot, lava hot, because I think we've probably got another bull run to get the actual technology behind that fully up and running, and the adoptability, and also the buy-in from the wider communities. But it's going to work within that sector. We've already talked about the omni-chain side of things, smart contracts, dApps, GameFi. It's going to work within. And then the other one, which I don't think is actually on here, is the Oracle. So that chain link, the PIF, that real-time data and information. So it's ticking an awful lot of boxes for me, which is certainly helping that. And then in terms of, its testnet, it's had 2.89 billion successful transactions on the testnet. So it obviously seems that it has worked, and it is working quite well. There's so much in which I could go in to talk about here, but I will save it for another time. It's just to say, obviously, do your own research. It launches tomorrow, though, so it was the first opportunity I could really get to talk about next week. Hopefully, already be in it by then. When you actually go through and have a look at what it can provide, it would take a good 40 minutes to run through everything here. But obviously you've got the entangled blockchain that you see here. Then we talk about that Oracle, so that real-time data input. It does have liquidity vaults for the dApps and everything else, and then there's this omni-chain layer. So it's like, as I say, it's an extra layer built above the blockchain, which then allows it to interact. And at the moment, I don't know where the list is, but let's see if we can have a look at it. Arbitrum, BNB, AVAX, Metaverse, Ethereum, Polygon, Optimum. I can't see what that there is. But there was about 12, I think, that it's already working with, but obviously they're looking to integrate with a lot more going forward. So there's that there going for it as well. From the tokenomics point of view, the billion tokens in max supply is going to be about 18.5 available for the initial circulating supply. As I said, and it goes through it here, there were seed rounds, private sales, strategic sales. So there's quite a bit that's already out there. So tomorrow, as I say, what we might end up seeing is some people taking profit, because this pre-sales, it was bought up. I tried to get in on it. It was bought up within 5-10 minutes. You just couldn't get on it. So a lot of people are doing it. And I've been looking at other groups talking about OTC markets, people already putting in orders for this. And if that's the case, we're talking like a 30x from what people paid on the last pre-round sales. So the ones that are in on the first sales, probably looking at 50 to 100x. So I think there's going to definitely be people that want to take profit relatively quickly. Now that's all based off numbers that from an OTC trader on an asset that wasn't even listed on an exchange yet. So those prices may never get filled. But it's good to speculate how it's going. Got the breakdown there, the vesting schedules. It's done in months, the weeks there, and then months. So we can kind of see by month 4, we've got 250 million. It's going to be 15 months maybe till the end of the bull run. We're going to be around about 600 million. It's just about 60% out there at the moment, and then that starts to taper off as we go. We can look into that a little bit in the future. As I say, its ticker is NGL. However, I don't think I've got. I think it's on here. If you are, and please do your own due diligence. So just go into it because I'm talking about it. So I may not even end up buying myself if the price ain't right. But yes, here we go. So it is NGL. However, there are other projects that have the ticker NGL. So for the likes of Gate, if you want to buy it, its ticker is actually small g NGL. Qcoin, it's small k NGL. Mexi, it's small m NGL. I think Bybit is just NGL, but we can't really use that in the UK, so I'm not sure. There's a Mexi one. It all goes live at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. But yeah, I think this one could be really interested. I have sold a couple of projects today, so that I've got some money to hopefully put into it. I actually don't think, if everything goes well, I don't actually anticipate buying tomorrow, or if I do, it'll be late tomorrow, as we just see how these things settle down. But usually, massive spike up, drive in the FOMO, drive the price back down, and I might miss it because the hype might be real, because we're in that bull market and we don't get that pullback. But what I don't want to do is be buying this thing for $3 when it's actually only worth 3 cents. So I'd rather just wait. And if I unfortunately miss it, I miss it, and we'll just have to wait and see where it goes. But I do think it is an interesting one. As I say, it's got quite a bit of hype at the moment, and I think a lot of people are buying into it. The one thing I didn't talk about is that it's got 55 partners already. Bearing in mind it hasn't even launched, and there's already 55 people that have seen enough within it to go, yep, I want to get involved with this. So I really do think we've got an opportunity, and we can see some of the other networks it's involved in as this tickers along through. But I'll let you check all of that out. I'm not going to waste any more of anybody's time because I'm conscious that it's 10 to 10. I just wanted to quickly talk about that because, as I said, if I do get into it tomorrow, I'll probably mention it in Discord, and we'll go from there. And if people are interested, then I'll happily talk about it in a bit more detail another time. Let's just go to full screen so you can see that beautiful face. Has anybody got any other questions? What amounts are tradable on TowNew? I will put the chat back up, the screen back up. TowNew. I mean, Chris, just to answer your question very quickly, I think there's plenty in inverted commas of liquidity on Uniswap, because bear in mind, they locked up that 140 or 104 million tokens. But again, you just need someone to buy and sell it off. So what you find, even if you're looking on the 5-minute chart, is it may jump 30 minutes between bars just because nobody's done a buy or a sell. That's why there's that low volume. But even that person that bought 15 ETH over a short period, it didn't move the price massively, by a fraction of a cent. So there's still plenty out there. Anyway, right, well, that's it for me. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Another busy one there. Video for those of you that couldn't stay to the end, although you won't get this to the end of that video. Will be out later on tonight or tomorrow morning. And all that leaves me to do is just say thank you very much for tuning in. Got any questions, hit me up in Discord. And other than that, I'll either see you Thursday or next week. Cheers now.